I'm back. Rodrance for the Black and White Network. I cannot fathom, let's say 5 years ago, that we are in a country where we would have a major city, any city, town, province, rural community, anywhere where the police force would be forced to turn over its duties to a Marxist organization like Black Lives Matter. Okay? And I cannot imagine that there are people in this country that would actually vote in political leaders that would consider doing that even on a local level. Okay? It's crazy to me that there's U.S. citizens that are so liberal, and I'm not even going to say liberal, they're so progressively woke that they would vote in leaders that would consider doing this, okay? Like Mayor Jenny Durkin up in Seattle. I saw this and I was like, what are you people doing up there exactly? You know, I've got to ask myself, how were you people raised? I mean, honestly, I would have never in a million years how I was raised here in Texas. You don't turn over your police force to anybody at all. But then again, we were raised that we absolutely respected the police. We complied with the police. You know, if you even have a conversation with the police, you're extremely respectful. Yes, ma'am. You know, yes, sir. All that. And you follow orders. Look, at that point, they're in charge. Okay? It's the root cause. Well, there's a couple of different root causes to all these issues we keep seeing with incidents involving some of these minorities that are, of course, turning into big political social justice issues. It's committing a criminal act to begin with, and then it's non-compliance with the cops, okay? I mean, Fox Nation has brought back Cops, the actual show Cops, and you see it continuously on this show, okay? Non-compliance, trying to get away, all right? And then things get rough. Well, yeah, if you don't comply, things will get rough, okay? And it should. It should. So, let's get to this. This is from the Post-Millennial. I saw this, and I was like, it's kind of one of those run-off-the-road moments. Like if you're driving down the road and you hear something that's so jarring, you just run off the road. Like, what the hell? You know, it's a deer run out in the road moment. For you folks like me that live in rural areas, you know what I'm talking about. Seattle planned to transfer police precinct to Black Lives Matter during deadly autonomous zone. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I just can't even fathom anybody considering doing such a egregious thing. It's insane. During the armed militant takeover of the Seattle Police Department's East Precinct, following the death of St. George Floyd, to form the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in 2020, Seattle officials drafted legislation to transfer the East Precinct to a local Black Lives Matter activist group, according to documents recently obtained by the Seattle Times. 3 memos and a draft resolution about transferring the East Precinct were sent to former Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin from Calvin Goings, the director of the city's Department of Finance and Administrative Services, in an email on June 8, 2020. The same day, SPD evacuated the precinct, leaving the community in danger. And that should have never happened either. I mean, you know, city officials should never put the police in a situation where they have to walk away from their own precinct. No. I mean, that's a total failure. In the draft resolution, Mayor Durkin's office discussed transferring the multi-million-dollar property to Black Lives Matter Seattle King County, which was to take effect July 1, 2020. According to the Seattle Times, Durkin's office discussed the possibility of turning the East Precinct into a hub for public health and community care. I mean, give me a fucking break. Quote, "Good afternoon, Mayor. Please see the attached documents as requested. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns." Goings wrote during the height of clashes between anti-police protesters and SPD as violent demonstrations went on throughout the city. According to Seattle Times, Durkin decided not to transfer the East Precinct to the BLM, Seattle-King County, when they declined the offer and said that they were in support of the precinct being returned to the Seattle Police Department. Wait a minute. BLM turned down the offer? Good Lord. Reverend Harriet Walden, a community leader who spoke out in favor of police returning to the building, told Seattle Times that she was not made aware that the city wanted to transfer police precinct over to BLM KC. Walden said the community needed to honor Sam Smith, the first black member elected to the Seattle City Council, who supported the establishment of the East Precinct in 1986. According to Casey Sixkiller, a former deputy mayor of Seattle, the proposed transferring of SPD's East Precinct to BLM was allegedly not a coordinated effort between Durkin's office and anti-police activists, despite occurring on the same day that the SPD evacuated the precinct. Quote, "It was a coincidence that the draft resolution was shared on the same afternoon the precinct was abandoned," Sixkiller told Seattle Times. You got to be kidding. Sergeant Randy Huskrick of the Seattle Police Department said the department was not made aware of the city's proposed plans to transfer the East Precinct to the BLM. Quote, "We were not aware of any plans on the city's part to permanently leave the precinct or any plans to share the space with the community." Durkin has repeatedly denied allegations surrounding the potential transferring of the precinct to community members, despite the draft legislation sent to her with, quote, "high priority." Chelsea Kellogg, a spokesperson for Durkin, told Seattle Times that Durkin didn't ask for the draft resolution. Interesting that you assume and state that the mayor asked for the draft resolution on this property when that is not how the process works. FAS oversees both city-owned property and many real estate deals. There was no plans to transfer the East Precinct from the time the SPD made the decision to temporarily evacuate the precinct for safety reasons. It's always planned to return. Details surrounding the forfeiture of the East Precinct led to the deadly autonomous zone have been the height of controversy in the city. Mayor Durkin's text messages from her government-issued phone were deleted during the violent uprising, and transparency from Seattle officials remains non-existent. Although the majority of text messages during this unprecedented time happened to get deleted, the post-millennial obtained a text exchange between city officials and Raz Simone, the warlord of Chaz, who has since been accused of human trafficking, showing that the city was in direct communication with him during the autonomous zone. Former Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin referred to the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone as, quote, "the summer of love," despite the fact that it resulted in numerous deaths, assaults, and strong-arm robberies, and I left the worst part out of there. The Seattle Police Department dismantled the autonomous zone and reclaimed the East Precinct on July 1st, 2020, following threats from former President Donald Trump to take back the city from far-left extremist radicals. According to the documents obtained by the post-millennial via a public disclosure request, Seattle spent over $1 million to secure city buildings during 38 days of rioting and protest after the death of St. George Floyd. Those buildings include City Hall as well as police precincts around the barricades were erected to keep out vandals, looters, and rioters. Demonstrators smashed windows, burned police vehicles, and threw explosives at city buildings and personnel. Almost half the funds were spent securing and maintaining the autonomous zone. The militant occupiers who had cordoned off the downtown area as they demanded the city support, the city provided it. Sanitation facilities, materials for barriers, and erection of cement boundaries and personnel costs contributed to the sum. That's crazy. Seattle spent $405,000 over that on just labor hours and vehicles, installing barriers for shop occupiers, as well as switching out barriers for alternative materials when the barriers did not meet the occupier's approval. Police barriers were swapped for water barriers, which were swapped for planters, which were swapped for concrete barriers. Good God. That's crazy. Again, be careful who you vote into office. My God. It is utterly unfathomable to me that in this country we would have elected officials that would go along and do things like this for a group that took over part of your city. Never mind your citizens that you were elected to protect and provide services for, that just happened to be in that area, and the businesses that were just completely destroyed. I mean, to hell with them. And then when people show up to a voting booth, they continue to put these people in charge. You reap what you sow at this point, right? It's crazy. President Trump had offered assistance multiple times. I mean, he said the National Guard can stop all this stuff in Portland, in Seattle. I mean, immediately, but they let politics, leftist, progressive, radical politics, get in the way of this stuff being stopped. Why? Because it was Trump. Just because of the name Trump. They let their cities burn. Hell, Portland is still dealing with shit up there with Antifa. Antifa's just an idea. Remember that? Joe Biden, I'm glad people are starting to see through this crap. We're gonna find out in November exactly how much a red wave's coming. But it won't come to San Francisco. It won't come to L.A. It won't come to Seattle. What is wrong with you people up there? This is crazy. At no point would it ever enter the mind of people that think, even halfway rationally, that you would turn over a police precinct to a radical Marxist organization. This is the United States of America. This is not Cuba, okay? This is not Venezuela. This is not China. But you people are voting like you want it to be. It's crazy. And now we're finding out more and more crap about the BLM and money being sent to Patrice Cullors and them buying $1 million properties in Canada. I mean, come on. This stuff is absolutely crazy. It's crazy. Tell me what you think, Black and White Network supporters. Make sure you hit subscribe. I saw this and was like, hell, that's a video. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.